We're going to go live in about 20 seconds on KISS FM.
Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Darren's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
K-Man's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning, Blake. How are you?
We are good
Good morning.
on a Tuesday morning.
Yes, wonderful.
And good to hear you on Bobo yesterday, 89.1.
Yeah, how'd it go?
It was good, I think.
I think
I think it was excellent. An excellent show.
Swimmingly.
Yeah.
Lots of positive feedback, lots of people listening in, lots of people calling in.
Did you get a lot of calls?
Yes, you did.
Fantastic.
So catch her every morning, 7:30 to 9:30 on our newest radio station, DMS Broadcasting, 89.1 FM. I like your billboards as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What do you got for headlines?
So the RCIPS is busy this week. They are having multiple events. So the first one is actually going to be tomorrow afternoon. They're having a press conference first in the morning at 10:30 with media. So have a listen out for that event. They're going to be releasing and I guess discussing at 10 a.m., their annual crime and traffic statistical report. So,
Okay.
Something we always look forward to see how crime is trending in the Cayman Islands. And then they're also having an event in the BRAC. So the BRAC residents should keep an eye out because the RCIPS is coming to the BRAC to give them a bit of information about, what they've been up to serving the people of Cayman BRAC. So wonderful. They're having a BRAC community meeting on tomorrow evening as well. So you guys can make sure that you check that out. It's going to be held at the Aston Ruddy Center at 6:30 p.m. So all Cayman BRAC residents can attend.
Okie dokie.
Awesome.
And yes, Works Immigration essentially had a break-in yesterday.
I read that.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Somebody want to break in and make sure their PR went through.
Put it at the top of the
Put the top of the stack.
file. This is taking too long. I'm just going to get in here and sort this out myself.
They were closed part of the morning, and then they had reduced services for the rest of the afternoon, so they couldn't accept any cash transactions. The window was boarded up. So they're supposed to be open back up at 8:30 this morning, fully open. But yeah, the CID team was out there fingerprinting and trying to figure out this mystery. Who on earth would want to break in?
What were they trying to get?
Have they determined what was taken, if anything?
They haven't said, but I'm guessing there was probably a small amount of cash maybe on location.
I mean, that just doesn't seem like a place you would break into to get like cash,
Right.
I don't know what else you'd steal from there, to be honest.
Huh.
So
I mean,
everything's on computer nowadays. So
no, there's like paper. Whenever you file like a bunch of paper,
Yeah.
no, actually there is a lot more on computers these days. But yeah, maybe they're going to like get rid of a police record in the
who
wrong
knows?
place.
that wouldn't be the right place. Yeah.
I know.
So OFREG has announced the appointment of Mr. Peter Gao as interim chief executive officer effective March the 1st. Seems 3 weeks late, but anyway.
Yeah. Congratulations.
This is after Mr. Malik Cummings stepped down, where he was serving for the past 2.5 years as CEO. So he's basically on secondment from the portfolio of the civil service in the interim. And then yesterday, CUC issued a statement basically warning customers to get ready.
Covered that this morning.
Yeah, increasing pricing and
because thanks for the heads up.
And this, in the summer months. So hopefully they'll be coming on the show on Thursday, so we can kind of go through that a bit more in detail.
That sounds good.
Aren't they also planning like another price hike around June? So is this going to be on top of that?
Yeah.
And it's not going to go back down when fuel prices go down too, right?
Well, I mean, the fuel factor tends to be a large portion of your bill, so it'll fluctuate based on that as well.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the police are also warning people in the community. There's been an increase in machete incidents over the weekend. So they had about 3 or 4 different chopping incidents involving a machete. So we shared one yesterday that occurred between 2 brothers. And in addition to that, there were other people wielding knives and machetes all over the place. So the police have been like, whoa, this is a bit much. So they had multiple people brandishing machetes during altercations and confrontation, and 3 of those resulted in people actually being injured. So one was on Friday. There was a Saturday incident with the 2 brothers, and then there was a Sunday incident as well. So yeah, and there was actually 2 separate ones on Sunday. So they're just asking people to cool it, and they're reminding people that it is an offense to carry any weapon in public, particularly at night, without a lawful excuse, and you're looking at conviction, fine of $5,000, and imprisonment for 4 years.
Ooh.
So just a reminder that even carrying it is an offense.
It's like a modern day pirate. Like, we're gonna have a sword fight and a machete fight.
You don't want to get hacked with one of those.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially half of them are like rusted and not really sharpened. So
Imagine the
get-
tetanus shot that they have to give you.
you don't have your DTaP up to date.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. But there you have it. Those are your headlines for this Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Great.
You like Aaron's Grateful Dead t-shirt?
What's wrong with
Nothing.
I was thinking she was looking pretty colorful today.
Yeah.
It's my favorite t-shirt.
It's actually
my
vintage.
Grateful Dead
When did you
t-shirt.
buy that?
I bought this in Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
What
with my
year?
own money
In what year?
in 1996.
96. Wow.
Is that considered vintage now?
I would say so,
Absolutely.
yes.
I've had it.
You know what year it is?
I
2022.
kept it in pristine condition because
Oh my
Grateful Dead is one of my favorites. And but this was back. I was telling Blake, I was like, it's so big and it fits still. It's still loose because back in like that 90s area was when we all wore like huge clothes. Remember?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
it still fits. I love it.
Yeah. So
know.
that shirt's 26 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
If my math is
I
correct.
think some people listening
That's
aren't even.
That's
This
vintage.
is older than some people.
I don't think
Yeah.
I have any other clothes that are 26 years old.
And I have kept this, being a teenager too, I've kept this in great condition.
Actually, I
It's
might.
lasted me that long. There's one little tiny little.
Actually, I do have some
Love it.
t-shirts. My wife says, you need to throw these away. They have holes.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, I like this t-shirt.
Like band
It's
t-shirts.
vintage.
Yeah, like band t-shirts. You have to keep them from
Yeah.
like tours. Those are vintage.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
All right, Sandy, we'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good show on Bobo.
Morning. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good morning.
All right, our segment with
All right, folks. So buenos dias. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Where's everybody this morning? Why are we missing people? Looks like people are just slow to get up. All right. You guys have to let me know how we're sounding this morning because I made some adjustments yesterday on the audio. So we've got 7:28 and 32 seconds. So we will be waiting to go live on radio at exactly 7:30. So we've got a little bit of time. By the way, can I tell y'all something? What on earth is up with UPS? We need to talk about this because this is kind of, woo, I don't know who runs UPS in the Cayman Islands, but if you want something to arrive very, very slowly in the Cayman Islands, it seems like you need to send it by UPS. What a hot mess, as I always say. I'll tell you guys why in a second. I've been waiting for this package ever. So let me see here. Oh my God. 29 and 30, 29 and okay. I'm always nervous about the time now. I'm like, oh, we gotta go live right now. 29 and 40, 29 and 43 seconds. And the countdown has begun. 50, 51, 52, 53.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter
Ooh, honey child.
on the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Doing well. I think we did that right on time. So good morning to our radio listeners this morning. This is our second day in 89.1 Bobo, Cayman's #1 station for talk and all things talk related. So please check out the station. There'll be other people throughout the day having all sorts of conversations. And I'm excited to dial it in and see who else is on a bit later on as well. And there's tons of news. So if you're a news junkie, which I know a lot of people are, then you definitely want to keep it locked to 89.1 Bobo FM. So that's your station. And by the way, have you seen our billboards that have gone up? Big shout out to Patrick, who did those for me. So, and also to the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, who's allowing me to use his slots to get the message out there about the fact that Bobo is now live. So Patrick is with Compost Media. So, you know, we really work with a lot of partners to get the things done that we need to get done. And he's always fantastic with helping us with signage and some graphic design work and stuff as well. So yes, big shout out there to Patrick. Thank you so much, Patrick. So folks, good morning to one and good morning to all. We are live on radio from 7:30 until 9:30. If we go into overtime, the overtime bit will just be on the YouTube and Facebook live streams only. So just as an FYI, so let's see who we've got logged in already this morning on the live stream. We've got Virtuous. Good morning. Olivia's here. Diamond Princess, Irvelyn, Miss Gloria. KK is joining us. Siobhan, Alice is here. Marshall joining us from North Carolina. Lots of international audiences who tune in every single day. Miss Brenda Archer is here. She says, good morning, sunshine. Little sunshine emoji. KK, let's talk about UPS in a second. Not USPS, but just UPS. Omeria, good morning. So FedEx, oh my gosh. Well, looks like we need to talk about courier packages. Hi, Miss Gloria, how are you? She says, I love your saying, what a hot mess. I find myself using it too. You know, I feel like I've used that like for a really long time. And it's so fitting with so many things in life. When you see a situation happening and you just don't know how to respond, like you're in a state of disbelief or maybe even shock, the phrase, what a hot mess is actually perfect. You're just like, what a hot mess. So Charles is liking the new intro. Thank you so much, Charles. El Rey says plenty of Al Jazeera news. Lisa says good morning. Rita is also joining us. Buenos dias. So good morning to everyone. We also has it locked. Of course, we've got a whole new audience on radio who are tuned in on, got it dialed in on their stations as they traverse to work. So we want to say a big good morning to those individuals as well. I think Marilyn and Gianna might actually be listening on the radio. Jamila says, what a hot mess, honey chill. Yes. Well, we got a whole hot mess of situations to discuss this morning. First of all, I was just saying, what is up with UPS? Why does it take so long to get a package? So, you know, during the pandemic, now this whole thing has been a hot mess, getting packages back and forth. And, you know, I found a couple solutions that really worked well for me. But I can tell you that I've got a provider who uses, Colin is listening on the radio. Good morning to Colin, a CCC student. Hey, Colin, how you doing? So yes, we have struggled with getting packages seamlessly to the Cayman Islands during the pandemic. It's just been a hot mess, actually. It's been very, very challenging to be able to get packages here. And it's kind of crazy because it's 2022. How hard can it be to get a package from halfway around the world? So I've had really good luck with company packages. So like I said, I deal with a company in Canada. And when they send stuff by FedEx, no issues. I absolutely have no issues. In fact, during the pandemic, I was surprised at how quickly, and I don't know if it was because there was nothing else going on, with the planes or whatever, but I was really surprised at how quickly they could get a package here from Canada. Like literally in 4 days, it would come from, I don't even know where in Canada, all the way to Grand Cayman, clear customs. It's like your package is ready to pick up. So I was like, wow, that's really fast. Customs, there's always a delay with customs. You know how that goes. And not just customs here, but sometimes like if it's going through Miami, it hits Miami first. There's customs in Miami that has to clear it. And then it comes, straight here. So this time the company, I was just ordering some remotes, like not a big order. And for whatever reason, they decided to send my package by UPS. Oh, honey Joe. What can I tell you except that the package was sent? Listen to how convoluted this story is. The package was actually sent, I think, on the 10th. And I have yet to receive this package. It's soon going to be a month at this rate. And on the online system, all it says, let me see what it says. All it says is that your parcel is pending release from a government agency. Once they release it, your parcel will be on its way. That was the 22nd. That was the last update. Today is the 29th. That's like a week. And that's all it says. I mean, I can't even imagine. And who do you call? Do they have a local number? Like, I don't even know. So yes, it left Ontario, Canada on March the 10th. And I still don't have this package. Does anybody know somebody that works UPS? Do we have a connection? I got so used to using FedEx that for, again, business packages that, I even have the little delivery guy's number saved in my phone. It's just saved under FedEx driver. And he would call me and say, okay, Miss Sandy, where are you today? Where can I deliver it? Big shout out to Aeropost, because for my personal packages, I found that they were my best solution. So, trying to get stuff ordered off of Amazon. You couldn't travel. You couldn't go to Miami. What were you going to do? So Aeropost was a real lifesaver, folks, because I could send my packages to them and they just did everything. Like I didn't have to worry about it. They did all the customs clearance, all the insurance on packages. A couple of things came during the pandemic that weren't working and you got to send them back. And so big shout out to the team over at Airpost, Eric and Saxon and the rest of the crew over there. So yes, I don't know. Good morning, Carmelie. Emma, good morning. And I haven't forgotten you. Emma says, ain't seen no billboards, but I love the radio yesterday. You sounded great, but what is it about seeing you live that makes that so much more attractive? Aw, guess it's like talking on the phone. You miss half the conversation because you can't see a person's expression. I like seeing you. Well, I appreciate that. That's super sweet. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, I think that, video is always more engaging. So absolutely, if you can listen to the video, then you can. But I also appreciate that a lot of people are driving. They're stuck in that morning traffic and they have no choice but to listen to radio. So now they have multiple excellent choices, including 89.1 Bobo FM. So Bobo 89.1. I keep reversing the station name, but there you go. So yes, absolutely. It's nice to see people as well. And that's why when we even do the call in, remember you guys can call us, by the way, 936 Bobo. But I also love to have people call in on the video calls, but most people are shy about that. I don't know why. They prefer to pick up the phone and call. So you guys want to see me, but you don't want to be seen. Yeah, so in any event, thank you guys so much for tuning in. So let's talk about this situation. It is the slap that was heard around the world. Like literally, I I was shocked. All right, let's walk through this in case you guys missed it, which I don't know. You would have to be living probably in a hole to not have heard what happened at the Oscars on Sunday night. So I actually didn't watch the Oscars. I completely forgot. Sarah also chimes in and she says, you can't beat Airpost. They are the best. So listen, folks, I was shocked when I heard about this slap. And at first I watched it. Somebody sent me a link and they're like, have a look at this. And I thought, is it real? You know, I wasn't really quite sure, actually, if it was real. And I looked at it and I looked at it and I looked at it. And then I was like, that's real. So apparently what the Oscars did, I'm going to see if we can get, I can't promise you, I can't remember which one is the filtered version. So if you got kids listening, you probably do not want them to hear this tidbit. But the Oscars was really, really fast on essentially cutting, what they did was, let me see here. What they actually did was I guess they have like a couple seconds of a delay when things like this happen, that they can quickly do something. And so their team essentially cut audio for part of it, I think. And then they did some kind of really quick editing, from what I understand. So they actually, and people who were watching it said how they then knew that it was, this was a legit situation, is because they could see that the audience literally disappeared. There was no audience, for that quick couple seconds. As the Oscar graphics team and the videographers were probably scrambling, trying to figure out what on earth are we going to do. So it was a joke. I don't even know if it was a joke that went bad, but it was a joke that was taken very, very poorly. So let's watch the video and see if we can kind of work our brain around what happened. And, both parties have now apologized. And I guess they're probably hoping that people can move by really, really quickly. But I don't think it's going to happen as quickly as people think. So, and I'll tell you why I say that here in a second. All right, so let's have a look here. All right, let's pull up this video. Okay, you guys ready for this? And let me just make sure my audio levels are good so that you radio folks can hear it as well.
Denzel, Macbeth, loved it. I love the part where it said, King Lear don't got nothing on me. Y'all gotta see it, it's really good. You know who's got the hardest job tonight? Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses, he can't win. He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Nick wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay. So we are.
First of all, let me just say, in the circumstances, I really had to take my hat off to Chris Rock. I don't know exactly what happened. And this is literally the slap that was heard around the world. Like, Chris Rock got slapped by Will Smith, and the entire world forgot that there was a war in Ukraine, forgot the Russians have lost all good sense of humanity, forgot that we're still dealing with COVID. Caymanians forgot that cruise ships are back. We forgot everything. Some of y'all probably forgot to feed the babies last night or Sunday night because everybody was like, what on earth just happened? So the first person that sent it to me, big shout out to Mary. Mary sent it to me and she's like, is this real? And I watched it and I watched it and I watched it again. And then I said, you know how I know that it's real? Is Jada's response to the joke. So her facial response, and this is where it was kind of weird because I think initially her husband was, he was laughing and you thought, okay, it was a little bit of a funny joke. But when he saw, Carol, you're right. He laughed at it until he saw his wife's face. And Jada, everybody's like, Jada handled this whole thing with composure. Really? She's the reason for the slap. So honestly, when he saw Jada's response, I think that's when he knew. And you know what is so ironic? The joke before that, when he said that the two spouses were going to be, like if one of them won and the other one didn't, like how's that conversation going to happen at home? Just as a joke, I felt like this is a bit of a spillover with spouses, right? So as a spouse, do you not feel sometimes like you have to defend your spouse, especially men? You have to defend your wife or your girlfriend or your wife's honor. If somebody insults her, you're supposed to step up to the plate and say, what on earth? You're not allowed to do that because I'm the man. I'm here to protect her. I'm here to make sure that she's okay. And, so I think that the second he saw his wife's response, which I'm no body language expert, but if I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night and I was pretending to be a body language expert, I can tell you that her facial expressions kind of said it all. She was just like, oh, this is not even funny. And she rolled her eyes and the whole shebang, right? So since then, we've actually learned that Jada, because he was saying that because of her bald head. And who was in the original G.I. Joan? It wasn't even Jada. It was some other actress, right? So, he's saying, oh yeah, you can play G.I. Jane part 2 or whatever. And, it's just a joke. Like jokes are supposed to maybe poke a little bit of fun at people, nothing too serious. And I think really the Will Smith in the end overreacted once he saw Jada's expression. He got up and he was so cool about it that even when you're watching it, you're like, is this pre-planned? Did they plan this? And he walked up and he smacked him. You weren't even sure if the slap was real. Like I kind of felt like, I've watched a lot of WWE in my day, World Wrestling Federation and WWF. Yeah. So I was going, that kind of looked like a wrestling move. Like, where you stomp your foot and you don't really hit the person or you barely hit them, but it looked really good for the camera. So I still wasn't sure, even with the slap. Like I had to watch it 3 times before I go, yeah, this is legit. So he slapped him. And then when he sat down and his response, about keeping my wife's name out of your mouth, you could see the facial expressions of everybody. And then it was like, ooh, yeah, this is real. This is serious. When people tell you, keep my mama's name out of your mouth. Remember when you guys would fight in school and you said, don't you talk about my mama? Those are fighting words. Got our first caller of the morning, 936-8686. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I decided to try it out. Give it a call.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm not sure if this is the radio number or not, but anyway, it doesn't matter
Yes.
if I'm on radio. I just wanted to say when you made that comment about UPS.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to say that I'm not going to go into details regarding UPS, but I know that they have been having difficulties long before the pandemic. At least they have an excuse if their packages are late. I have had serious issues with FedEx, and I think I know why we're having issues with them as well as DHL. The
Mhm.
major problem is they've taken their call centers out of Grand Cayman and basically all the operations and stuff. I know that FedEx, when you call them, you're being answered in Puerto Rico. And then you're quite fortunate if you find someone that speaks English. I've had some bad experiences with them. And let me just say, I don't use FedEx. I stopped using them from the time I was working. That's a long time ago. I prefer DHL, but I noticed that they're kind of moving in that direction too. I don't think the call center has moved out of Cayman, but it's all this automated press this dummy. Okay. So I ordered something back in December 2021, and it was late December, and they said that I would receive it on the 6th of January, since it was international. Otherwise, I could have gotten it in 3 days. And I kept waiting for this package, and finally I wrote to the people and I said, I haven't received my package yet. And that went on for a while until finally they did a track on the package. And then this is towards the end of January now, still hadn't gotten it. And yep. And then one day I got a long voice mail on my phone from someone in Puerto Rico. And I'm glad that I caught the part where they said invoice. Okay. So in communicating with the senders of the product, what the holdup was, and this is what it has been with me previously with FedEx, the holdup was that customs wanted a copy of the invoice.
Right.
And which FedEx should have already provided to them. But anyway, long story short, how I got my package this last time. And let me just add that I had gone away for 3 weeks. And up until then, I still hadn't received the package. Okay. So how I actually got through with the package was I had to call customs, speak to them directly.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and one of the officers there received the invoice from me by I scanned it through. And even after they got it, they were then trying to help me get the package before I left the island because it was something I needed to take with me. And I then got an email from FedEx, and they were telling me that, oh, we'll deliver your package on Monday. I said, Monday's too late. Please, I need to have this package no later than Friday. I heard nothing more from them. But while I was off island, they were calling me. Okay? So believe me, it's not just UPS. And as I said, I'm not going to go any further into it.
Right.
But there is a reason why there's a delay on their packages. And you might want to tell anyone that's going to be sending you packages not to use UPS unless, they've got their problem rectified.
Right.
But the others are no better, okay?
Oh, gosh.
So
Okay.
Thank
you so much.
Put that one out there.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, my dear. Thanks.
But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't had any issues with FedEx, but I think when she mentions this whole thing about the invoice, maybe that could be part of the problem because, the vendor puts the invoice in the package, but I suspect that sometimes customs or whoever, although they're supposed to be checking packages, that maybe they're actually not opening the packages up and looking for it. So, but I agree with Ms. Brenda. A large part of the issue is that you can't actually reach a real person here in the Cayman Islands. Even when you call the local, I put that in quotations, FedEx number, it's not local FedEx at all. It's somebody else. So I definitely appreciate what she says. But thankfully for FedEx, I've got them on speed dial now. I do know the country manager. I've got emails and so forth. For UPS, because I really don't use them. I don't have any of that information. But Ms. Brenda's right. A lot of them outsource their call centers. And yeah, what a mess. All right. So listen, I think that Will overreacted, and then it became this big thing. I mean, every single person came out and was posting on social media about this Will, Jada, and Chris Rock situation. And it was kind of interesting because some people took a very, very firm position on it. They felt like, okay, this is, this is really, Chris Rock's joke was completely inappropriate because she has alopecia, I think it's called, which is some sort of disorder that causes hair loss. But I honestly do not believe that Chris Rock knew why her hair had been shaven, because let's be honest, Jada does a lot with her looks, and she shaved her hair before. She rocks really short hair styles all the time. So I don't think that this was a situation where he was aware of her disorder and was making fun of that. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, okay, if that was the case, then that would be completely wrong. And I agree, but I don't think that was the case. And the joke didn't, I mean, he was actually done with the joke, and he was going to move on to like the next joke or talk about who was nominated for the documentary section of the Oscars or whatever. So I felt like if Will had just sat back for another 15 seconds, but again, this was all about, you're in a room full of the most elite people in Hollywood, right? Is this not the first Oscar since the pandemic that they've even had in person? He's nominated for an Oscar. He actually won. I believe that's his first Oscar as well. And the pressure's on. Maybe he was feeling like, I felt like this was more than just the joke. I felt like this was a culmination of a lot of things with Jada and Will. They had their whole entanglement situation. I saw some of the comments where people were like, how does he get upset about this, but not upset that your wife was having an affair or an entanglement, as she called it, with another man? And, you kind of, had the red table moment about that whole situation, which was so incredibly uncomfortable for most of us to watch, because we're all going, I'm not so sure that he actually gave her permission to do that, which, it's just crazy. Like, the whole thing is just super weird. So you're okay with that, supposedly. You get over at that. And then what really upsets you is a joke about G.I. Jane Part 2 and her hair. Like, it just seemed like he went overboard. And in my mind, had he just sat still for another 30 seconds, he would have been okay. The joke would have settled. Jada's eye roll would have been a thing of 30 seconds ago. And now it would not have been this total, situation where the entire world is having to talk about this. So have a look at some clips that we've got here, because some of these are super interesting. So first of all, the reaction in the room, and you saw the lady behind him. I forget what her name is. She was in a movie. I think she's of African. She might be from African country. Can't remember what her name is. But look at some of the expressions across the room, like from shock to "did I just see that?" to a little bit of a chuckle. Somebody's like holding their mouth. These are all the facial expressions, but most of them are legit. Like, huh? Did that just happen? So Will Smith kind of apologize, but I'm not so sure that I cared for his apology. And it was so interesting because yesterday on yesterday's program, Danny Warren Jr. was talking about how to make a good apology. And I feel like this was not it. As apologies go, this was not it. So when he got up to accept his award, he said something about the devil and basically, like, when you're at your highest, the devil, what did he say? The devil kind of, comes at you. No, Will, this had nothing to do with the devil coming at you. So he kind of broke down a little bit during his speech. And I thought that was a cop-out. I thought, you know what? You lost it in a moment. Who hasn't lost it? I'm sure we've all had moments where, I don't know, have you ever slapped anybody when you really shouldn't have? or you wanted to slap somebody when you probably should have been like, okay, I'm just going to keep my cool. Or maybe you didn't slap somebody physically, but maybe you told them, you cursed them out a little bit, or you gave them a piece of your mind when you probably should have just walked away and ignored the situation. We've all been there, right? I feel like we've all had a moment when we have lost control. We're human. It's okay sometimes, but when you're like millions of people are watching you and you're in a room full of probably hundreds of the top actors and actresses around the world, it takes on a really, really different light. But the thing about the devil, I thought, well, I would have just left that part out. I would have either said nothing at all in that moment, because maybe he still needed to compose himself to do a proper apology, and it just happened too quickly. Or if he wanted to do it that moment in front of the room full of people, he could have just said, my actions tonight were inappropriate, and Chris and I will have a discussion. We'll work it out. So when he says, this is what he said: at your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you. And I felt like so many people in the room felt for him, including Denzel. And the stuff that apparently we didn't see is that when they went to commercial break, his wife was there for him, and they were like, oh, we're a team. I love you. Thank you for taking up for me. And and then Denzel came, and I think they had like a moment of prayer, and they held each other's hands. Listen, it can't be easy constantly living your life in the proverbial spotlight. Let's be honest, we look at actors and actresses, we all judge them, we all have plenty to say, whether it's a Kim Kardashian, Kanye West situation, or Will and Jada. And the truth is, we don't live with these people, so we don't really know them. We have a persona of them that is like this public persona. Some of them like to pretend like they're fabulous and they're perfect and they've got perfect little family lives and whatever. And then when you see the divorce papers hit, then you're like, okay, there was a lot of cracks in that relationship. And it is what it is. But I think that they're human just like the rest of us. They just have a job that puts them out there and, that makes them look fabulous probably 90% of the time. And then the 10% of the time when they don't look fabulous, or they've got, family issues, drug addiction issues, or whatever, then we're all judging them at a different level than we would judge ourselves. And I don't know that that's necessarily fair. So I thought Chris Rock handled it well. He moved on. He's like, this is probably the biggest moment in television. And like I said, it was a slap that went around the world about twice. He has since issued an apology, and Will has issued a fuller apology as well. So let me just show you guys one of the apologies here. So this is the one that he issued afterwards on his social media pages, where basically he said that, listen, violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to hear, and I reacted emotionally. And you see, this is where even in this apology, Will Smith doesn't get it right, because this was not a joke about her medical condition. This was just a joke about, okay, she kind of looks like G.I. Jane and what's the other girl's name? That used to be the original G.I. Jane was oh, good grief, what's her name again? The original G.I. Jane was, help me out, Demi Moore. And I mean, she kind of does look like Demi Moore with the haircut, right? So he goes on to say, I'd like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line. I was wrong. I am embarrassed, and my actions are not indicative of the man I want to be. That's interesting. He didn't say the man I am, but the man I want to be. There's no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. And I'd also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world. I'd like to apologize to the Williams family and my King Richard family, and I deeply regret that my behavior has stained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress. Sincerely, Will. Yeah, it's interesting when he says that this is not indicative of the man he wants to be. And, folks, you can't ever look at these things in isolation, because we all are on a really, really interesting journey in life. I feel like some of our journeys are fraught with, all sorts of issues. Like we nobody's perfect. And some of us come from backgrounds of violence ourselves. You've lived in families that's what they do when they're upset with you. Somebody's gonna smack you. Um, people don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to just say, listen, what you said tonight was inappropriate. It upset me. They revert to what they know. And I know that Will Smith has struggled with his history. He's talked about some of this, how he grew up. And it has always been a challenge, I think, for Will to try to break the cycle of whatever was happening in his family, right? And they've talked about this. And I think for a lot of us, we grew up in cycles of emotional distress, of violence, of people not even having our back in our own families. And so those things can be really, really destructive. And I feel like in your moment of, and this is where the devil has nothing to do with this, this is just in a stressful moment where you feel like somebody comes at you, your response is to revert back to what you know. And if what you know is slapping somebody to get them to stop, then that's what you do. And I felt like this is exactly what happened here. And it sent the wrong message to, especially if you are an African American person or you're a Black person, you kind of get the sense that if these two guys were white guys, right? None of us expected that would have happened. And isn't that sad that we associate this type of behavior and this type of action with people of color? And, that conversation is also happening in the wider community. I was watching yesterday this podcast that I watch on YouTube, The Breakfast Club, and it's like Charlemagne the God, and I forgot what his co-host name is. But anyway, they were having this conversation. They're like, what do you guys think? And, Charlemagne was like, yeah, this was just so wrong. Nobody's given anybody right in this situation, but I think the more wrong, if that's a thing, definitely lies with Will Smith. I mean, he just lost it. And it's unfortunate because now, listen, Chris, I'm taking my hats off to Chris. He didn't smack him back, which normally when somebody slaps you, that's like, ooh, that could have turned really wrong. He maintained his composure. He tried to recover with another joke. Like, this is the biggest moment in television. And he just was like moving on, and he's decided, nope, he's not going to press any charges. He's not going to make this bigger than what, it should be. But the Academy, now listen to this. The Academy has launched an investigation. So they are not necessarily letting it go. Let me see some of your thoughts. Good morning, Felicia. Good morning to James joining us from Canada. Ms. Venice says, violence is never the answer to anything. I do feel sorry that Jada was mocked over something she can't control, and they're both at fault. But again, this wasn't a situation where he was making fun of her alopecia. He was making fun of the fact that she kind of looks like G.I. Jane, and that was it. And I do not believe that this had anything to do with him actually knowing about her condition. And someone said, well, maybe he should have done some research, or whoever helped him write his jokes should have done some research. And I thought, Lord have mercy. Have we become so, first of all, most of us are so overly political correct. We can't be honest with each other anymore, right? We can't have an honest moment. And, this is the sort of thing where I feel like, man, what jokes are you free to tell anymore? Can you make any jokes? We can't do fat jokes because, that's no longer appropriate to talk about somebody's weight. We can't do skinny jokes because she might be skinny because she's anorexic or something else. You definitely can't do jokes based on color anymore. It's like you can't joke about anything. I feel sorry for comedians because I'm like, what's safe? Even the dog, you can't talk about the dog because the dog might be somebody's emotional support dog. It's just like the politically correct thing has gone far, far, far off. I mean, it's just crazy. So Charles says, for some reason, I feel this is staged. Don't know why. It's like Chris Rock braced and readied himself for it. Confusing. Well, Charles, I think he braced himself because nobody walks up on stage. Like, when was the last time you saw someone walk up on stage who wasn't invited at the Academy Awards or the Oscars or Emmys or whatever? It just doesn't happen. So I think when Chris saw him coming, Chris kind of knew that, something's about to go down. Now, to Will's credit, he slapped him, which was the least violent thing he could have done physically. He didn't box him. It wasn't closed fist, you know. It was just like a slap. So it was kind of like a little, I don't want to say girly move, but, you know, kind of. So I do feel like he was still somewhat controlled. He was losing control, but not completely, or it could have been incredibly different. So Evelyn shares her thoughts. She says that he should have stopped there when he saw Jada's reaction to the first part of the joke. Will had no right to slap anyone. So her reaction, I think, coincided with the G.I. Jane thing. And that's all he said. That was the joke. And you know how quickly that would have happened? I mean, Evelyn, listen, we have the benefit of hindsight, right? So we're going back and we're looking at this and we're like, yeah, they could have done this. When you're in, like, how many seconds was that? That was less than 15 seconds when it all, like the joke, her response, you know, I don't know that Chris Rock even saw her response. Like, I don't know how close they were to the stage. Could he really see her face? I mean, we saw it because there was a camera angle on her, but I don't know if that's what happened. So here's some other comments coming in. Someone says Will Smith is called out online as a resurfaced video shows him mocking a bald man. So this is the Daily Mail. Thank you, one of our listeners is sharing this, where footage from 1991. This is, boy, when you're a celebrity, they can find some footage of you. Let me tell you. So they've gone back to the archives, found footage of 1991 where he talked about his bass player named James Williams, that he had to wax his head every single day. And again, this is where I'm saying that I really think that jokes in this day and age, like, you can't even make a joke anymore, you know? And so this was this him with Arsenio Hall, it looks like. And he says he got to wax his head every morning. Now this is a video of Will Smith saying a joke about someone with alopecia. One reason I love the internet is it never forgets, is what this says. And boy, does it never forget. It is unforgiving. And multiple people have now commented about this. But can I just say that the Jada looks beautiful with bald hair? Like, not everybody looks good with bald hair, but she actually looks really, really beautiful. She's a good looking woman. But yeah, you know, people forget, Will himself is a comedian. So I'm sure he has over the years told inappropriate jokes. We've got another listener who said Will was triggered by Jada's expression. That's all there is to it. I agree. We've got another listener who says it was an assault. Wonder why he wasn't arrested. Plenty of proof he assaulted an unarmed person. What if it was a white guy doing the slapping? Bald jokes are okay if the bald person is a man. Kind of limits the joke pool. Yeah, I mean, I think that really Chris Rock is like, you know what? I'm just going to leave this alone. Like, it's not going to be worth stirring the pot even more with charges and all this kind of stuff. So I think he is just happy to leave it. So Will said, he's a work in progress. So someone said that there's a fake apology in the internet. Chris Rock grew up in a really rough neighborhood in Brooklyn. He's pretty good with his hands, and he can go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. With the New York mentality, a lot of comedians are expressing concern, saying that Will Smith didn't justify his people aggressively going after comedians and comic shows and things of that nature. Very questionable behavior when you're doing their job of making people laugh. So, okay. So here's a bit of interesting news. So apparently Chris Rock's team shuts down apologies circulating online. It says here that he has not issued an apology. This is Chris Rock now. There's a statement going around purporting to be from Chris Rock that is not from him. It's the one that starts, as a comedian, it can be difficult to understand, ... So Chris Rock hasn't apologized. So maybe Chris Rock is going to be in his feelings a little bit more about the situation. I don't actually think Chris Rock has anything to apologize about. It was the recipients of the joke that just took it wrong. So maybe Chris Rock is going to hold his position and not apologize at all. So let's look at the video that is resurfaced of Will and his ball joke. And by the way, folks, feel free to call in, jump in, let us know your thoughts. 936-2626. That's 936 Bobo. What do you feel about this? Do you even care? Has someone ever, told a joke about you that kind of went sideways and went wrong and you're like upset about it? Did you ever slap anybody over a joke? Some really interesting points here, but let's have a look at this one.
They got rules. Like he has a rule. The bass player, he got a rule. He got to wax his head every morning. That's a rule. He follows the rules, man. He follows the rules. Oh, these are jokes. Come on. See, you got too into the characters and got hurt.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth. Hi. Morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sandy. I want to congratulate you on your new move with the radio part.
Thank you so much,
honey. This is Barry here. Look here, on the internet, this thing has been played over and over, different angles and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to make a judgment or whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people think it's actually fake because number one, when you look at it in slow motion and look at the distance, and plus being two great actors, plus let's not forget, most people didn't even know the Oscars was on until this was repeated and shown, because the ratings of the Oscars and all this woke bullshit, all over the years, even the basketball and even the sports, when they brought politics into sports and all that, all of the sports ratings, even when you could stay home and watch it on TV, so it wasn't a matter of saying it was COVID and we couldn't go out. But all of the ratings, including the Oscars, was the lowest it's ever been.
True.
So I'm wondering. I haven't 100% came to the conclusion of saying it's fake or not fake yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something to consider, because a lot of people think now that the actors had to do something to boost things up for future events. Because can you imagine if in future events now, future Oscars, if anything, people will watch it now to say, let's see what the next crazy act going to be. Therefore, we'll get our numbers up a little bit. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
And once again, congrats on the radio. I saw your sign. I personally prefer to listen to your show than any damn Oscars, because it's a bunch of BS. It's a bunch of BS anyway.
Thank you so much.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. You got some good actors and some good things that happen in Hollywood. You gotta look close to find it though. But it's all now about pushing foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
But congrats on your show, Sandy.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, hon. All right, folks. So that caller, not entirely convinced that it's real. He's like, I don't know. I'm still, and I do understand his skepticism. So again, folks, don't forget that you can give us a call at 936-2626. As he rightfully said, let's just be honest here. For the longest time, even during COVID, nobody was watching anything. We were all locked down, but we certainly were not that interested in what Hollywood was doing. So is this a way to get more views? Well, I think I have concluded that it's definitely real. And I think the response afterwards, what he said after the slap, and even with the Academy Awards now saying that they're investigating this, that to me says, oops. Yeah, it's real. And it was a moment that, Will kind of messed up. So Henry says, absolutely, the facial expression tripped Will. And I think that this is a thing that can happen, like, I don't know, you live with people and sometimes their response really is what makes you upset. How many of you have kids, right? And something has happened with your kids. They fall and trip. And the second they turn around, they look at you. And the second you're like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh, baby. And then they start crying. Have you seen babies do this? Like they were not going to cry. There was going to be no big fuss about it. And it was your expression that actually put your kids over the edge. And, you know, when I had my daughter, it was one of those things that I was always conscious of because babies understand and know body language better than anybody. Like they pick it up really, really quickly. That's why they tell you that if babies don't like a person, you know, if they cry around certain people, whatever, like be careful because that baby has got picking up on some vibes that the rest of us, you know, have lost as we've become adults. But yeah, I mean, I sometimes my daughter would fall and I'd be like, yay! Like I'm gonna do the opposite of like, because then she's gonna start crying. I'm like, oh, you're good to go. Get up, girl. Slap those knees. And then she's like, okay, but mommy, my knees all skinned up. It is? You just fake it. Fake that it's not a big deal. And then kids are like, okay, here, let me kiss that boo-boo for you. It's okay. Emma says, look at the smirk on Will Smith as he walks off the stage after slapping Chris. It left me with a lot of questions. Was it staged? So she's also asking, was it staged? So Evelyn says, I applaud Chris for not reacting in a violent way. He was shocked though. Poor Chris. Everybody hates Chris. That's funny. Remember the show Everybody Hates Chris? Yes. I mean, you could tell that it was a slap that kind of probably hurt a little bit because Chris's mouth almost looked like it kind of went sideways. El Rey says Will Smith a donkey. Yeah, boy. With his wife entanglement, he's going to slap another man because of a joke at her expense. What would he have done if Dwayne The Rock was the MC? Ooh, that probably would not have happened at all. So yeah. And you know what? He could have gone down the entanglement road because that was, listen, everybody's been making jokes and fun of even the term entanglement to mean that basically you had an affair in your marriage, right? Like who uses the word entanglement? And so I felt like if it was personal, that he could have like talked about the entanglement. It wasn't meant to be personal. It just went wrong. So Miss Morna says that's what happens whenever you go to the comedy club. If you can't take it, don't go. Thank you guys for reminding me that the original G.I. Jane actress was Demi Moore. Yes, Gabby says FedEx is too expensive. I'd rather wait 1 month for my package than use them. Well, not when you're in business, honey child. When you got customers waiting and stuff, you kind of need it. You can't be waiting forever because, you know, you need your packages. Good morning, Larry, joining us from New York. Olive, good morning. She says, good morning. I don't in any way support any form of violence. Never have, never will. No one is supposed to make fun of anyone. Medical condition, sickness is something that no one chooses. Yes, they're comedians, but comedy should not be about no one's sickness. And again, it actually wasn't about that. He was just saying she looks like G.I. Jane with the ball head. And it was a joke. Yes. Anyway, folks, it is what it is. They'll survive. They'll go back to their bank accounts with their millions of dollars while you and I are receiving emails from CUC talking about the cost of living, the cost of our CUC bill. They're giving us a little bit of warning. Your CUC bill is about to go up. We hope that they'll come on the program on Thursday to talk about this. Thank you, Marshall Lupita. Yes, Lupita was right behind Will Smith, and she's like, when he said, "Don't you get my wife mad at you?" She was like, "Oh my gosh, this is real." Wow. Because I think even some of the audience members who were there were kind of like, I'm not sure. Am I supposed to laugh at the slap? Is it part of the act? And then, yeah. So Thomas Jefferson says, I got attacked and arrested for defending myself, and Will's privilege would be nice. Ooh, Thomas. Well, you can't go around slapping people because you'll definitely get arrested in most cases. But as we say, Hollywood is not a real place. The things that they do and the things that they get away with is just crazy. Now, just as a quick aside to this, and I see lots more comments coming in on the social media feed. Another big thing in the world of Hollywood that has been happening recently that people have been letting slide is Kanye West's behavior towards his soon-to-be. I know she's going to be like, it can't be soon enough. Ex-wife Kim Kardashian, and she's dropped the West already. So, what is so interesting about that situation is a lot of people are giving Kanye a pass and they're letting it kind of slide. They're ignoring his behavior. And I think they're doing it simply because it's towards Kim Kardashian. If that was anybody else, if he was doing that towards your little granddaughter named Brittany Ebanks in West Bay, you would have been like, oh no, I'm calling the police. This guy's stalking my daughter. He can't get over this relationship. She's ended the relationship. He's dangerous. I feel again, we look at celebrities very, very differently because of who they are. And sometimes we're giving them a pass for bad behavior that is extremely troubling that we shouldn't be giving them a pass for. And so, of course, everyone was saying that the irony of it is that, he was prevented from going to the Grammys. So Kanye has been uninvited. I think he was supposed to perform at the Grammys. He's actually been uninvited because they're afraid that he's going to have a Kanye moment like this. Like he's going to get up and he's going to slap somebody or he's going to, God knows what, because Kanye can be so unpredictable, right? So here's Kanye West getting uninvited from these events. And no one thought, well, are we going to have to worry about Will Smith or anybody else for that matter being uninvited? Because normally, they're part of, listen, Will Smith and Jada, they are considered Hollywood elite, especially in the African American community. That is as high as you can go right after Denzel. Now, they're not as hot as a Denzel and maybe an Oprah. So they still bow down to Oprah and Denzel just a little bit. But they're like in the top 10. He's a top earner. He commands millions for his movies. There's now a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot, which I don't think he's in. But nonetheless, he has done extremely well for himself. Like, I don't know what his net worth is, but I can tell you it is into the millions of dollars. Actually, I can tell you because everybody else is asking the same question now because of this incident. So his net worth, and now he's actually won an Oscar. So his, value just went up as an actor. Let me see. He's from Philly. So his net worth is an estimated $350 million. So him and his wife own about 10 properties in the US. They have 100-acre property in the hills between Malibu and Calabasas. Wow. 100 acres? $7.5 million. They got that in 1999. It's now worth $50 million. People invest in property. I know it's hard, but wow, look at that. Went from 7.5 to 50 million. But anyway, yeah, him and his wife are Hollywood royalty. And so no one ever thinks that, oh, he's going to be the guy who's going to slap somebody or he's going to be the unpredictable one at the party. Kanye West, yes, we kind of think, we expect Kanye to be unpredictable. But again, I don't think Brenda says that Chris Rock should apologize because he was out of line. I don't think he has anything to apologize for because I don't honestly think he was making fun of her condition. So Flashpoint, joining us on YouTube, says that violence is never the answer. Are we all going to go around and slap everybody that says something that we find unpleasant? Will Smith must be arrested and charged for this violent act. I guess if they don't have a complainant, so Chris Rock doesn't, and he hasn't as yet filed a complaint, then, there probably will be nothing criminally that will happen. But of course, he might have, some people are saying that he might even lose his Oscar, which would be horrible. Talk about consequences. Wow. So Shan Lee says, I think if Jada didn't actually have alopecia, it would have been funny and gone differently. It can be painful to lose your hair. The emotional effects are just not nice. I had my hair break off after experimenting with dyes, and I cried for ages. Didn't want to go outside and wore wigs. Mine grew back, but Jada has a condition. where that isn't as easy. Chris Rock kicked her while she was low, and I think Will only reacted because of how she took it. So Jonathan says, yes, if it was Kanye West, it's a different story. Huh. Yeah, hair loss is, listen, nobody likes it, especially women. Men can go bald all they want. They can start going bald at 20, and we're just like, oh yeah, that's okay. Because there's an expectation that women, like, your hair is part of your beauty, and and in certain cultures that really isn't the case. In certain cultures, they shave your hair, they shave their head, even as a woman. But I think in a lot of the Western and Asian cultures, hair is a thing, and that's why so many people go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a piece of weave or a good wig, maybe even into the thousands, to try to look good with hair that they could never in the real world even grow. There's a whole other discussion there. And some poor woman in India is getting $10, probably the equivalent of that, to shave off her hair so that you can have a decent hairpiece or decent wig. And I think there is an overemphasis, especially in, again, the African American community, that our hair has to look a certain way. And you guys know that I've been doing this whole natural hair journey, child. So I appreciate, even after I had my child, I had a little bit of like hair loss. Like, it wasn't as luscious as it used to be, and it wasn't growing as fast. And I definitely noticed, just hormonal changes, whatever. I definitely noticed that my hair just wasn't what it used to be. And that's just as you get older as well, right? And yeah, people are like, what's going on with your hair? And when you cut it, why do you cut your hair? Your hair should be long. And it's just like, who cares? Like, it's just something, again, that we overemphasize. So I don't know, but I do understand that it can be very emotional, as Shanley says, to lose your hair and to have any sort of issues with your hair. One of the biggest things when people, are going through cancer, especially women, they say that's very traumatic for them, is having to deal with hair loss. 936, folks, 2626. Jonathan says, it should have been interesting if Cat Williams was the MC. Yeah, because I think everybody's kind of like, other people would not have responded in the same way. Morning, Perla. She says both are comedians and are at the best, but when it comes to some things and personal, especially when you know the health situation. And again, I do not think he did. I mean, I've seen nothing that said that he knew. Exactly. And Jake says, I understand that he's joking about her looking like G.I. Jane, but she looks like that because of her disease. Yes, but I don't think he knew that. So that makes a difference. It does make a difference what the intent was, right? Because if he knew that she suffered from alopecia and then he decided to go there with a bald person joke, then that's a very, very different situation. If he didn't know, and it was just coincidental that she has alopecia, but he's also making a joke about her hair, then it's as Shakespeare said, much ado about nothing. So yes, Carol, talking about CUC, they're coming on hopefully on Thursday. We've extended the invite, and I think it's interesting, for the first time ever, that CUC has actually issued a statement warning you, because every year, like clockwork, when the summer rolls around, everybody starts complaining about CUC. All the social media comments by June, oh, I can't take CUC no more. Oh my God, it's more than my mortgage. And so CUC made a bit of an interesting move this time. I don't know who's in charge of PR over at CUC, but they're like, let's get ahead of the conversation, in the sense that let us remind you that the summer months, your bill always goes up. So every year you complain about it as though it's something new, but it happens every single year because you've got kids at home, you're at home more, the AC units are working harder, all these things. Plus now, this year in particular, with the fuel factor being the cost of fuel what it is, over $6 a gallon at the pumps, yes, you're going to see it go up. So, here are some of the things that you need to do to try to get ahead of this if you can. So Sue is saying that the government needs to do something to stop them. How is the government going to do something to stop them when the majority of your bill is actually the fuel factor? That's CUC makes no money on the fuel factor. So people are saying, maybe they shouldn't take a profit this year. We're going to talk about some of those things. We'll see if we can get CUC on first. Oh, you guys are so funny. Listen to this commenter. Can we get Will Smith down by the Mendoza residence? Now, in case you missed it, Wilson Mendoza is the character that lives on Lisa Lane in West Bay, who's been tormenting the Addams family for about 5 years now. Yeah. Wow. What a mess. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. Yeah, so someone said if there's proof of a criminal assault, that's all the police would need. That's why this might be staged. Let's face it, if the Oscars are in a dump, no one's paying narcissistic people any attention, and that'll drive them crazy. And let's do one more little sort of meme here, and then let's move on from this, because I want to talk about what the police say is an increase in violence over the weekend with machetes, because this is quite concerning, actually. So here's this one. This one says, a screenshot of Will Smith hitting Chris Rock. You can tell from the look in Chris's face that the punch was totally real and was genuinely painful. Yeah, like I said, Chris Rock mouth kind of twisted to the side a little bit. He was like, damn, I just got slapped by Will Smith. All right, let's move on. Good luck to them. They'll be okay. They ain't got no issues paying their bills. So what you gonna do? Yep. All right. So yes, another viewer says anyone in their right mind could see that it wasn't a joke. Will's language says it all. He should have never did that, what he did, but that's just my opinion. Have a great day. So one more comment, one final comment. So someone said, is she not immune to mockery like other celebrities? He's lucky that Chris Rock should have punched him. You can take the ghetto out of people, but you can't take the ghetto out of them. They also said it's a bitch slap. And who slaps people anymore? Will is a wuss. Who the hell Jada is, whatever. This is what this person's saying. We're creating a super hypersensitive society. Too many oversensitive people walking around. Will should have slapped August like that. So August is like the 19 or 20-year-old kid that Jada was having entanglements with. You see, I'm telling you, there's more going on in Will Smith's mind. He probably wanted to slap August and never got a chance to do it. So he's taking it out on Will Smith. What a mess, y'all. They're so messy. But you know what? The world will forget about this. They've gotten their 15 minutes of fame. By next week, we're talking about something else. And the world would have moved on. And like I said, they don't have any issues paying their bills. I don't particularly feel sorry for any of them. I think the impression that it puts out there is definitely the wrong impression. All right, let's move on. So over the weekend, there was a couple really serious assaults. And we heard about one from Sunday because this poor guy, I mean, the pictures, I'm not going to show you the pictures here because they are, if you're a sensitive individual, you would find the pictures probably a bit too much, but they have been circulating like wildfire and I've seen the pictures. So the guy got chopped by his own brother. If you're a Caymanian, you already know who it is. You already know who the brother is and you already know that he's assaulted his brother before. He seems to have some kind of problem. I don't know if it's just alcohol or alcohol and drugs, or if he's just, got other issues, but he took a machete to his brother's face. Oh my God. The brother is lucky that he did not completely sever his ear because it was partially severed. When I saw the photo, I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? So listen, this is serious because there were like 3 or 4 other situations over the weekend involving a machete. People, the overarching thing here is violence. And I think that we grow up again in communities and families where all people know to do when they're upset about something is to fight. We have our children who are fighting in schools. Last Friday or the Friday before, there was 5 fights at John Gray, and nobody's talking about this. This isn't making the media. This isn't making news anymore. You know, this was the Friday before the young man went on campus threatening and trying to beat up another kid. So we were focused on that because police were there and the ambulance was there. And funny enough, the ambulance apparently was there because kids are passing out, which again, why are we not hearing education department talk about this? Nobody is talking about why kids are passing out on a quote unquote regular basis at John Gray. And it's like, why? They're taking drugs. What is it that they're doing? No one's having a conversation. Now, I'm not a John Gray parent, but certainly you guys can tell me. Has anyone contacted you all about this situation, about kids passing out and what's happening at your school and why that's happening? When was the last time you had a PTA meeting? Anything? Speaking of PTA meetings, got a message this morning about a situation. So you guys remember that last week we talked about Triple C. So now, right, apparently the parents are saying that they are still sick and tired of the Triple C situation. And here's why. I'm going to show you guys this one. Let me just pull it up on screen and then I'll read it for the benefit of our radio listeners. So the situation at Triple C is one that urgently needs to be addressed. The students are upset, the parents are upset, and last week, you guys remember, I think it was on Thursday's show, we went through a long list of issues and concerns that the parents had been saying, you know, they want to talk to the administrators about. So remember that there was supposed to be a meeting today, this evening. Well, guess what? The meeting has been called off. Here's what was sent out this morning. Dear parents, we regret to advise that after much deliberation, the decision was made to postpone tomorrow's meetings, that would have been today. A more detailed update on the decision to postpone and the discussions emanating from the meeting of March the 24th are forthcoming. Regards, the PTA Executive Committee. Well, I want to know who is this supposed PTA Executive Committee, because honestly, as we've said, there's really not a P in the PTA. It's mostly the T and the A. So it's like the Teachers Association. It's really the board who seems to be running every single thing at that school. And the parents are saying that they're sick and tired of being ignored. So this person says, good morning, Sandy. Fed up parents are still being ignored at Triple C. Here's the latest. The Triple C chat is pissed. Please keep me anonymous. A Triple C parent. We always keep you anonymous if you wish. So yes, here we go again, Triple C. Poor management. You know what shocks me is when, and sometimes government does this, sometimes government departments do this, the prison, when someone is saying to you, right, we need to talk. I'm upset. We have a situation on our hands. This is urgent. You have got to be willing to make time for the discussion. Triple C is on the verge of having students, listen to this, protests during their lunch breaks and after school, I guess. They're willing to sit in and protest. They're willing to strike. The parents have signed a petition, over 130 parents, and you probably had another 130 that wanted to sign it, but they're scared, honey child. They're afraid. This situation is urgent. Why would you have a meeting scheduled for today and then postpone the meeting until God knows when? And then you're like, well, we'll get around to telling you why we postponed the meeting. If you are postponing the meeting because of things emanating out of the board meeting that happened on the 24th, you need to come to the parents in that message instead of sending out this message that really says nothing. It's completely ineffective. You need to be saying exactly why. What is so urgent that you would not be considering the urgency of the complaints and the urgency of hearing the parents. All you're doing is creating more strife, more upset parents. And I'm telling you that a lot of parents are saying if they had a choice of pulling their kids out of Triple C and going somewhere else, they would do that. They are fed up. Triple C, it's not a good look. As administrators and as the board, you guys really need to get it together. You know what is so sad? Al Ebanks, you guys know Al. He's such a joker. Al says, have you listened to 89.1 FM? Not today, Bobo. Yes, go listen. What do you mean not today, Bobo? Of course you got to listen. Everybody's going to be making Bobo jokes. I'm already thinking of what kind of Bobo t-shirts we need to have going here. But yeah, listen, Triple C, I don't know, man. You guys are just you're missing the point entirely. If you have any idea how on the verge you guys are, and the only thing that's saving you is, I guess, a lot of the other schools have waiting lists for years to come. Because if parents really had a choice, they'd be out of there in a heartbeat. They're afraid come September that they're going to have another failing report, largely because there've been no changes to the curriculum, and everything that the current administration is trying to change is all the wrong stuff. It's like hyper focused on the uniforms. Oh, braiding your hair in one as opposed to 4 plaits. It's just the most ridiculous stuff ever. And after some discussion, we know that at that meeting on the 24th, again, because, we even brought it up, the board chairman, who's Mr. Roy Bodden, he was head of the church and head of the board. Big conflict of interest. Anybody who does not see that, can I make a blind man joke, or is that going to be offensive? I mean, even let me put it this way. Even a blind man could see that that was a conflict of interest. But yet, that's been the position for years. It's only now that everybody's going, there's no separation of that church and the educational institution whatsoever. So how do you have the same person act as head of the school board and head of the church? So apparently he has stepped down at the meeting as head of after the meeting, he stepped down as head of the church, but he's still head of the school. You want to know the cold hard truth? The cold hard truth is a lot of parents are like, sir, step down from both. The entire board needs to resign is what I'm hearing. What a thing. Nathina says, I'm not scared. They need me or what? Listen, if the kids need me, I'm ready. Jean says, I know. She says, agreed. I know the feeling. Jay says, thank God I didn't send my kids there. Well, Jay, it's unfortunate, but it's a sentiment that a lot of parents are now sharing. They're like, listen, some parents even would rather homeschool their children than to send them to Triple C. And I'm not saying that like homeschooling is a bad thing, but homeschooling takes a lot of resources, and normally it takes a lot out of parents to arrange a homeschooling situation. But I'm telling you that there are a lot of parents who are like, I'm done with Triple C. So they postponed the meeting. I was very, very disappointed to hear that this morning. And I guess we will continue to monitor the situation and keep you all abreast of what's going on. So, so Friday, someone has just reminded me, they sent me something. Friday is April Fool's Day, folks. Put on your big girl panties and briefs and get ready to be probably the butt of some jokes. I'm sure some local media will, I don't know what they're going to put up. They're going to put up something about, I don't know, the government has built what did they do one year that had a lot of people fooled about a bridge or something? Just relax. It's April Fool's. People joke. So Miss Barbara just sent her pictures from when she had cancer, saying that she shaved her head. She said, when I had cancer, it was also change your lifetime. Legs were too hot, and I had to make a decision what to do with my hair, with my bald head. I don't think it was as much for me as it was for my husband. I don't know anyway. Here's what I did. I painted on hair, and I got many compliments about the great hair gel that I must have been using. I found it funny as hell. So she actually painted on her hair. Oh, that's interesting. So she painted on like hair dye. Yeah, you know what? It's so interesting. I think some people do that anyway, even if they might just not have a whole lot of hair. Um, Men paint on stuff too. You ever see men that paint on like the entire um beard, you know, because they don't have as full of a beard or as dark of a beard. When you walk up to them, it's like all dyed in and it's like perfectly manicured. I know a couple of guys that do that. I'm just like, wow, that takes a lot of time. All right, this commenter says, great talk show, by the way. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. So someone has just sent me a picture of the Cold Hard Truth signs. We've got 2 signs up. Again, big shout out to Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who has permitted us to use his slots temporarily. And so someone said, look at you, Bobo, Didi. Yes, check this out. Aw, looking good, looking good. 89 Bobo 89.1 FM. Okay, folks, give us a call. 936-2626 is the number. Or those of you who are on the live, you know that you can also jump in. Where's Jared this morning? You can jump in with the live stream. So yes, really disappointed in the Triple C situation. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. But since we're on the topic of violence, folks, again, I'm really, really surprised that no one is addressing the ongoing issue of violence in our schools. John Gray having upwards some days of 5 fights a day with your children. If your children go to John Gray, this could be your children. Now, I had a parent who had reached out to me after the whole incident where the person showed up on campus and was trying to fight a kid. And of course, that whole situation, I had so many questions about that. How do you get past the security guard? How does that work? Anyway, this parent is sharing, and we're going to do a day of discussions on bullying here shortly. We still need to speak with her and get some additional information, because effectively what she's saying is the school administrators, the police, all the people that you rely upon to actually do something to keep your children safe are not doing their jobs. And so, you know, that's the situation. And that's not a very good situation, because your children, they're getting more than slapped. They're getting more than a Will Smith slap, folks. They're getting their hair pulled. They're getting punched. They're getting kicked. They're getting ganged up on. Multiple children are ganging up on, 1 or 2 kids and assaulting them. These are serious assaults. And now we see where someone who doesn't even go to the school was able to go on campus. Y'all, Jesus, take the wheel, have it make sense. Was able to go on campus and actually carry out an assault. So it wasn't a stabbing as the children initially thought, because the children actually thought that there was a stabbing because the ambulance was there and whatever, but that was an unrelated fainting episode. But how is it possible that your children are being assaulted? And I'm like, by the way, the ministry makes no comment. John Gray simply said, oh yes, there was no stabbing. That's not enough. We need more. As parents, you guys should be protesting. But the only protesting I've ever seen in Cayman, well, we protested during the election, but other than that, y'all out there protesting about the LGBT community. You don't protest about the health, wellness, safety, nothing of your own children. How is that possible? Your children are afraid to go to school. They're being bullied. They're being beaten up. 5 fights in a day. Some children, the school administrators are having to take them and lock them up in a room for their own safety during breaks. And I hear no outcry in this community. 1 or 2 parents, and that's it. Something's wrong. Priorities. Education, ministry, department. I don't know who this is going to fall under. But again, no statement about the incident. They've not even said that they're going to be carrying out an investigation this time. It was just like the school was like, nope, didn't have stabbing. Cool your jets. And everybody's like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. I was like, really? Oh my God. There was a point in time when y'all would be fit to be tired of something like this. A non-student shows up on campus telling his little sister, oh, go to the car and get my gun. And y'all sitting back like, I don't know what's going on in Cayman. It must be COVID fog or something. Because I just don't understand it. But, you know, I keep saying this over and over again. We grew up in families where assaulting each other was okay. You know, as a kid, you got beaten up by the adults in your life. You can call it whatever you want. Call it a whooping. They would take Cameron switch. They would take a belt, hit you with belt buckles, whatever. So I think that a lot of us are desensitized to violence when we see it. We think it's okay to beat and treat children like that. So when their peers are doing it in school, maybe it's just a further extension of what we think is okay. What a mess. Perla says, Sandy, think about it. Triple C didn't want you to attend. They're afraid you expose them for whatever they're covering up under the mat. Well, I had no intentions of attending. I think I mentioned this before because, first of all, it's a PTA meeting, and I'm not a P or a T of the PTA at Triple C. So rest assured, there'd be no need for me to attend because everybody at that meeting would have been telling me what was going on anyway. But I also said that I'd make a conscious decision not to even be there because I think that sometimes when I show up to certain things, people get scared. They're like, oh, we can't be honest. And so maybe the communication level between the parties, you know, would not have been as open and as frank. So Damien has a little bit of chuckle and he says the US programming is working. Aliano says red flags. Jamila says something I said, Sandra, don't say the dates you're going on vacation because that's when it's going to happen. But they need to remember that she has ears and eyes everywhere. Yeah, I'm not going to show up to the PTA meeting. They do not have to worry about that. Listen, I will make time for my daughter's PTA meetings and her assessments and whatever. These are parents who are coming to me and saying, here's the petition. We're not happy. This is what's going on at Triple C. And it was a lot of parents and they had a lot to say. If you missed that show, go back to Thursday. Jared, you ready? I see Jared in the green room, as we call it. Good morning, Jared.
Morning, Miss Sandy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
You're coming in a little bit low on the mic.
Can you hear me now?
So bring that mic closer to you, or just check your mic settings.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're still a little bit low, but we can hear you.
Yeah. So
we need to get your proper mic situation sorted out. Yeah.
You know, so it's trying in Cayman. I don't know in Cayman.
Are you back in Cayman?
I'm back in Cayman because I had to jump in and do a little quick thing. And then
okay. Well, you can jump on a. How did you come in? What plane brought you here? You can jump on that flight real quick.
I took United Airlines. Came through Houston, Texas. And then from Houston, Texas, and there's another connection back. You know. So yeah, and then I came. So yeah.
Here's another one second, Jared. Here's another comment, another anonymous comment. This parent says, I'm a parent at Triple C, and if it wasn't for your show, I wouldn't know that the meeting was canceled. What? So they haven't sent that. Oh my gosh. Like what? No, sir. Triple C, you got to do better.
They're just scared, man.
Scared of doing your job, your increase in school fees. You're charging a facilities fee and the parents can't see any improvements, and yet you're scared to address their concerns? Why would you be scared?
Well, okay, I won't play devil's advocate. People have their way of doing what they're trying to do, and when they realize that what they're doing isn't working, it makes them question their capabilities. And so nobody likes to be questioned on how effective they do a job, even if they think that they're doing a good job. So, you know, last week when we spoke about...
Jared, can I make a suggestion? Because your audio, for me, it sounds really, really bad. I don't know how well. Yeah, I don't know how well people can hear you, but here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Are you on your phone?
You want me to go on my phone now?
Yeah, so keep the video going. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mute you there. Keep the video going and actually call. You can call on WhatsApp or straight line calling, because then we'll be able to hear you a little bit better, because right now the audio is really poor. And I'm sure if I'm having difficulties hearing you, probably the radio listeners can't hear you either. So folks, just a reminder, we got about 30 minutes left in the show. We got to be really, really tight with the time when it comes to the radio. And we do have MP Kenneth Bryan, who's probably going to be jumping in here in just a second. And yeah, so you have multiple ways of reaching us. You can call the straight line. So that's 936 20. Okay, Jared's going to try another connection. Hold on. That's 936-2626. You can call us on WhatsApp. So if you don't have any credit on your phone, but you've got data left or whatever, you can make it a WhatsApp call. You can pretty much call any way through the phone that you want, even Skype calling, I suppose. And then you can get on the show through video link. And the link for that is Cayman Mall Road /talk show. So CaymanMallRoad.com and then /talk show. So let's see, Jared, if that's any better. Unmute yourself.
You can hear me now better?
Yeah, that's better. Much better. Much better.
Okay. Yeah, so what we're saying, long story short, just because somebody is a teacher doesn't mean they're a good teacher, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well.
But I think with Triple C and with schools on a whole, with the heightened cases of fighting in public schools, and I have to pull out UCCI because there was an incident there 15 months ago. There needs to be a plan. The parents need to say what's going on. Yeah, what are we doing to mitigate situations like these? What are we doing to mitigate the risk for youths who come from homes where there's an elevation in physical, I wouldn't say crime, but just physical assaults. They're just very physical, fighting, right? And so if you put groups of students in, like, say, a classroom of 20 to 30 students, that student is going to change the environment, right? Because they're lashing out with their issues that they have at home. But anyway, Triple C need to get in line, but it's already on the Mall Road, so the administrators would do well to do what is in the best interest, because if they have another inspection and they don't do well, it will call questions. Questions will be called, and if they're taking government money, as I know all private schools get public funding, it is a right for people to question how effective is that money being utilized. Why are we giving money if it's not being used properly, in the sense of do what you're supposed to do, teach properly. If you have students coming and saying there's an issue, there's an issue, because students are the ones that are feeling it. As the saying, who feels it knows it. And
and you know what the sad thing is, Jared? The students are saying to me that the decisions that the school administrators are taking is actually impacting their mental health and well-being. And I mean, I was reading something the other day about how kids are stressed out because of COVID, but the true mental health crises with children was happening long before COVID, but most of us didn't want to have that discussion. But COVID really brought it to bear, with children being in isolation and being under circumstances that they'd never had to deal with, a lot of them, before. So, and as adults, we have never been in a pandemic like this before. Most of us haven't lived that long.
What them out? Was it the performing as if things are still like nothing has happened in that, or we're in a pandemic, but still act as if we're not in a pandemic, and then this unrealistic expectation of, you need to get A's and B's in order to get scholarship money to go overseas, and then there's a lot of, was it that, were they coming from that angle? Or
I think that what the children have said to me is that there's just too many changes too fast. And, they're trying to focus on their education. They're trying to focus on schoolwork and all this other stuff. But unfortunately, all this other stuff that is going on is really distracting them, and they likewise are worried and concerned about triple C's,
Educating.
dismal reputation.
Yeah, it does
Which
affect. It does
will
affect
reflect on them.
a child's behavioral health in terms of we all want to go to good schools, right? John Gray was in that kerfuffle 10 years ago, when it was just considered a bad school, always fighting. Police had to be there constantly, and you notice that as they progressed in ratings, the turnout was different. Good students were being produced, and it would affect them if you're going to triple C and somebody say, oh, they failed inspection 3 times, they fool our. We know how those street talks be happening, people be looking one-sided. So they feel it. Young people are very conscientious about everything. And I don't want to say we're a bit too sensitive, we're just more aware than previous generations are, because we want to succeed. The competition there to succeed, to be at the top or to perform at the top academically, and to be at the best school in the Cayman Islands is there. That pressure is there. And when your administrators, who are the so-called subject matter experts, are underperforming in that they're not holding the credibility of the institution to where it should be at and the expectation, students are gonna feel, why am I doing all of this work? If to be honest, and you have to give it to students, if the school is getting a bad rating, it is not because of the students. It is because of the administrators and the teachers that are there. Now, that doesn't mean that the leadership team or the teachers specifically at Triple C are the ones to be blamed. It is the principal, vice principal, and the assistant principal, or the subject leaders, because everybody has a boss, and the buck stops with the principal. And why the principal, maybe she took on too much that she can't handle, so be it. But what is the plan? People want to know what the plan is. Parents are asking, what is the plan? And if you don't have a plan, exit the seat so somebody else can come up with a plan. And I think, equally, when you're the principal and you have a lot of pressure and responsibility, it can be overwhelming, and we get that. But when you don't
Isn't
talk,
that what you're being paid to do?
well,
I mean, if you've been in the industry for 25 years and you're running a school that it's not Cayman's largest school by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I don't know how it ranks in terms of size compared to the other schools.
probably 300.
Are you not being paid to do the job? And if it's overwhelming, you can't do it. Why did you apply and take the job?
Well, people always try to jump into things that they think they can handle until they realize the full remit. Changing a school's environment and behavior is something that takes time. So, for example, if we look at UCCI, when it was gaining its accreditation, people used to say, oh, who want to go UCCI? But now that UCCI had taken the process of getting accredited, producing, world-class students, and, does what it does, it's gained a level of popularity equally with public schools. So the question that I have is, why hasn't the Education Council, they've made reports, but what happens after a third, fourth, fifth report where you see a school is underperforming at a basic level? Because I know their curriculum is different.
Well, here's the thing. The parents and the students were asking the same question of me, and I honestly don't know. They said, what if Triple C fails again? The government, because the parents have reached out to them and said, listen, they're failing now. They don't have the official report as yet. But what are you guys able to do about our complaints as parents? And they're basically saying to them, they're a private institution. There is nothing that we can do. So it seems to me that the education system is willing to do the annual, I don't think it's annually, but they're willing to do these reports and fail students or fail schools based on their assessments, and yet nothing is going to come of it.
Because
what would be the point even?
what's the reputational damage for students who try to apply for schools overseas? Because that's a big problem. That's a big problem. If, let's say, a university from America or Canada, the UK, looks up triple and says, "Oh, we realized your schools failed 4 reports." The information is publicly there. The director of education needs to make something, a statement to say either we're working with Triple C to, you know, with whatever. I
But
don't think.
they're not working with them. That's the whole point. So the question becomes, right? The school inspectorates will go in and inspect the school and give a report. They've given them multiple failing reports now. Once again, this is a school that has 70% Caymanian students and staff complement of over 50% Caymanian. So you're allowing a private institution, largely with Caymanian students. This Triple C might have, and I stand to be corrected here, but in my mind, they might have the largest percentage of Caymanian students in a private institution. And yet they are failing, and government is essentially saying that there is nothing that they can do.
Well,
so what really going on here?
That will make sense. It says rubber needs two mouth in that we're giving. Somebody would need to confirm if we're giving public monies to private institutions, because if you're giving public funded money to private institutions, there's a level of onus that has to be on the government to say, okay, you're giving money. Is either you stop giving money and you say, okay, private institutions, do it on your own. But when you have public funding going into private institutions, that can be questioned. And the reason and the lack of why it is being allocated. It is to support the school. But if the money that is supporting the Caymanian school predominantly is underperforming, then you're wasting money. And we do not like to waste money around here. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to question it. We're going to be very upset about it. And, we can write complaints and see what happens. But at the end of the day, the problem with this school is that it is strong arming the parents in that, okay, it's whatever, we're not going to do. You can't do that. Parents are paying for a service, right? And when they're dissatisfied with the service, they have every right to question why it is not performing at the expectation that it's used to, right? So I would say I hope something is resolved. I hope they come out and do something. But the schools do not want students to protest, because if students stop going to school or stop going to classes, then that's going to be a problem, because there's a law that's being broken in that students must be in school learning. And if students protesting,
the fact that children are not getting what they need from the school and from the administrators doesn't break the law. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy. All right, folks. Again, 9362626 is the number. Perla says, I've been a supportive parent at PPS for 12 years. Is that Prospect Primary School?
Yeah.
Why are you there for 12 years? Hopefully your children are advancing. Maybe she has had children over the last 12 years at all in primary school. So Perla also says that I've spoken to some kids from Clifton Hunter High School, and they want us parents to be there. They don't feel secure anymore without us present to check on the campus. I just hope and pray that parents can attend school, can attend back into the school. What do you mean? I personally miss seeing all the children and hugging them. So I'm assuming this means that parents are not allowed on campus, but yet total strangers who have no business there, whether it's the Jamaican dance hall artist who was permitted on campus and all, now we don't exactly know how that happened. No investigation, no report, no, okay, there were failings in security and this is why it'll never happen again. There's so many unanswered questions. Somebody was asking me yesterday, whatever happened to the parent at What school was that where she was trying to do an exorcism on the children? We heard that there was an investigation being carried out, and still all now no updates on that investigation.
I think that's Red Bay Primary School.
Yeah. What happened?
Well, you know, Cayman has this thing in a Sunday where
It's called short memory.
Things pop up and things drop down. So it pop up and drop down. It's talked about for 2-3 weeks, and then people forget about it.
Forget about it.
But that's not good. So
because I mean, I want to know whatever happened. Was she reprimanded? Did anything happen? You know, I don't know. There's no indication. So another parent says, "I'm not scared. I'm ready to fight for my child's education."
Because teachers don't always necessarily know what's good for students in terms of, and you know, did the students ask that they needed more like counseling, more, or is it that it's kind of a bit weird because it's specifics that's really needed in terms of, is it teaching that's a problem? Is it the teaching style? Is it the administrator? Is it there's not enough counseling? Is the food bad? There's different things that can.
It seems in some instances is all of it. All right, we do have the Honorable Kenneth Bryan joining us. Jared, stand by 1 second. Good morning, Minister. How are you?
Hi, Sandra. Hi, Cayman Mar Road.
Thank you so much for calling. Now, of course, we know that you're in the UK at the moment under not the best of circumstances. How are you holding up?
The best I can, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, the Lord only gives you as much as you can bear. So, you know, I'll leave that
well,
there.
We're praying for you. We did announce it on our show last week. We were expressing condolences to you and your entire family, especially your mom, Miss Donna. But we know that, you know, you'd be making the journey over there to probably help organize some stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say on behalf of my family and to all those persons who sent their condolences, thank you so much. And if you don't mind, I'm going to try my best again to my work mind, so I cannot think about it too much. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the condolences from everybody.
Absolutely. So what's on your mind today?
Well, I just want to say congratulations. Yesterday I was hoping to be on your show to congratulate you to your next step in the journey from a media perspective. I'm quite sure that there's a lot of people in the country are now happy that you're on the radio, because obviously different platforms available, different categories or niche markets of people who are on social media, but some are not. And particularly for our seniors who can use the content conversations that you have and the dialogue to know what's happening, would appreciate the content being on radio. So I'm very happy about that. As you know, I'm being a former journalist. Information is key. Even though I'm sometimes the brunt of the conversation as well as my government, but the more information the public has, the better they can be informed about what's going on. And I must say that we got to do a better job with information sharing, because it don't make sense to be doing things good and nobody knows about it. So that's a key component that myself and the PAC administration is going to be trying to take full control of, to give out more information about what we're doing, what's coming down the pipeline, because you know it took the country a long time to get in this mess that we're in, and it's not going to happen overnight to fix many of the things that the people want fixed. But things are slowly progressing in the right direction, and I know the Honorable Premier will be speaking more to it, particularly on our 1-year anniversary of being in power, so we can outline more things so people can get a better understanding. Because I know a lot of people feel that, you know, they haven't seen enough, and we're in the world of instant gratification. You know, you want things right away, but when you're running a country, it's not always as quick as a drive-through window. So, but it's important that we let people know what is happening and give them timelines of expectations, so that way they can manage the process in their minds of accountability and capability of this administration. in the appropriate manner, rather than thinking that nothing's happening. Things are happening. But the conclusion of the solutions that we all talk about every day are things that can't be done within a week, a month, potentially even within a year. But we'll do better at that. And unfortunately, with me over here, I can't focus a lot on that. There was a lot of things I wanted to talk about in respect to crews. There's a lot of things I wanted to speak about in respect to transportation. I had a whole media plan of what my ministry will be doing, but unfortunately the circumstances have changed the timeline for that. But as soon as I get back home and my family and our minds are in a better place, I can get back to doing the people's work in respect to that. But regardless of what happens, you still got to be able to do the people's jobs on their behalf. So, but I will continue to listen from abroad as usual. Even though sometimes the conversations are about us as leaders, it's always good to know what the people are thinking, because you offer that platform. I was really impressed yesterday with the amount of calls that came in for the Honorable Deputy Governor. I'm glad you asked him about the responsibility of hiring and firing within the civil service, because sometimes that viewpoint gets displaced, and they think that we as legislators or cabinet ministers can hire somebody. And unfortunately, sometimes even if you make a little reference, it's shunned upon and say, listen, you're getting into an area of responsibility that you don't have constitutionally. So little things like that triggered me. Some other things about, Caymanians in the top positions. And I'm glad you spoke about that, because it's a big issue for me, particularly as the representative for Georgetown Central, because I brought a motion to Parliament mandating that all heads of departments and its deputies of government-owned companies, authorities, and civil service be Caymanian. But that was shot down by the last administration, and somewhat shot down by the civil service as well. I'm going to be bringing it back to my colleagues to see.
Well, can I say one thing in relation to that, Minister? It seems to me that in some respects, we as a people and as a country are simply not ready. And, I understand, obviously the stress that you're under at the moment, but you and I need to have a conversation once you're back about what's happening at the port, because the port situation is one of those that I've got to discuss later in this week. I'm just still in the information gathering stage. But I can tell you the first question that came to my mind is, how is it possible that we have the director and the deputy director resign from the port, and I don't see a succession plan anywhere in sight about how they were ever going to be replaced? I mean, nobody stays in a job forever. And this is a constant thing within government agencies, government departments, no succession planning. It's great to say that we want a Caymanian to take up these top spots. And I agree that, wherever possible, that should be the case. But just like we've seen with the fire service and others, if there is no succession planning in place and we don't have a training program, we're not looking at what markers they need to be hitting in terms of professional development and so on, it's like we're creating a hot mess of a situation. And at that port right now, we have a hot mess of a situation where the board is trying to micromanage what's happening within the administration of the port. And everybody's sitting there shaking their head like, what's going on? I mean, listen, we dropped a story on Sunday night, I believe it was, late on Sunday, that Brevon Elliott is going to be taking over as a acting port director. Now, through the grapevine, through the Mall Road, and we get all the sus, I'm hearing that, okay, they were scrambling yesterday, holding all kind of meetings. And you know what the crux of the meetings were? How did Sandy know this? How did this information get to Sandy over at Cayman Mall Road? How did she find out? He hadn't signed his contract yet. The ministry hadn't been informed of the fact that this move was going to happen. So now the ministry is trying to convince him his current position. I'm just like, say what? Can we ask somebody over at the port to get it together? When are we going to start looking at maybe and again, I'm not expecting you to answer this. This is a rhetorical question, but maybe some of these boards where we kept remnants of individuals from the last administration who've been there for a really long time are continuing to be ineffective, and they're misguiding the current government. They're micromanaging, and maybe that board needs to be scrapped and we start over. Anyway, I'm not expecting a response. I'm just saying that conversation is coming as well.
Well, thank you for bringing it up. There you go. I was just gonna say to you, you need to refocus your camera because it was focusing on the flag in the background. No, just to make sure your product is on point. I think that maybe there's a lot of misconceptions of what's happening at the port. I'm prepared. I always watch and read your articles, even through these times. My job is to still be on point. And I support the board that is there. I appointed them, and I don't think I have been given any reason for me to doubt their abilities. One thing I think is important to understand is that there was no succession planning before we took government. There was no deputy directors. I think there was one, and that was Mr. Will Jacobs, who just recently resigned. And also Mr. Woods, who was acting, stepped down. Hence the reason for Ms. Macfield to take the acting post. I must say that Ms. Beth
can I just ask you a question? Are you aware, Minister, that the port workers are talking about how they all, or a majority of them, want to go on strike right now?
No, I'm not aware of that. But I think that would be not the best thing for them to do. I think that would be really inappropriate. They know they have the support of me as minister to address all the issues that they had before, hence the reason why they quick move to ask Ms. Macfield to come and take the post. Ms. Macfield had the opportunity to apply for the permanent position, and she chose not to. And that's her right as a Caymanian. I hope that she would have. She never did. And also there is provisions whereby there's only a limited amount of time you can have a person from a civil service to an authority to be on succession, to be on secondment. So you can, by way of emergency, you can have 3 months, and you can extend it for another 3 months. And if it goes past that, you have to have it out to open tender. And the board has given me as much updates as they're allowed to do, so I'm aware of what's happening. I know that Ms. Macfield has gotten a lot of support from the employee element, from the employees that work there, and she's done a good job in respect to that, and I appreciate all the work that she's done and support what she has been able to do. But there's still a number of things that were not addressed so far. Like, say, for instance, it's been 6 months, and a number of those posts that you were speaking of that is not filled could have been filled within that 6 months. And I was hoping that it would have been filled, but as you know, that is the responsibility of the director or the acting director. Neither me nor the board has the authority to hire anybody. So I don't want to step out of my responsibility, because there's a proper process. My job through my government is to select the board. The board then is responsible to select the director, and then that director is responsible for selecting those persons who fill the hierarchy within the authority. We were hoping that many of those spots would have been filled. They haven't been filled, but that doesn't mean they won't be. I did hear that there was interviews for Mr. Brevon. I am not aware, since I left Cayman to the UK, whether he was selected or not, or whether Miss Beth was going to end until your story, which was quite surprising. I think that your sources has concluded in my mind where you can get it from, because it's quite detailed. And I know you, and I know media, and I know how things work. And it's good to transparency and truth about what's going on is always, I hurt. I mean, it's going to be problematic because we now have to.
Can I just pause you for one quick second, Minister, because we do have to go ahead and conclude on radio. So, folks, a radio audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll continue the conversation here with the Minister on Facebook and YouTube. But I trust that you guys have a fabulous day, and we shall see you all tomorrow for sure.
Should I continue down?
Just 1 second, Minister.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Find us on Facebook and YouTube for the latest show episodes, including special community interviews and much more. Follow Cayman Morrow Road on Facebook and YouTube for all your community happenings.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for holding on there, Minister. I think we went over by 57 seconds. Hopefully we don't get in any trouble, chill. But
those growing pains are expected.
I know, trying to get it down pat, but yes, there you go.
So I mean, I hear your concerns. I think that I don't think it's in the best interest for the authority to have, what is sometimes happens in media is, a full frontal of the challenges that the authority is facing. Obviously, it's a transition period from an old guard to a new guard, and trying to get that done right is like you rightfully said, there wasn't a succession plan before, and succession plan takes time. It takes years, and I came and found a situation which was quite difficult. Hence the reason I had to get Miss Beth, a strong Georgetown woman who I think would be suited for the job. So, and the board agreed and put her in acting for that period of time. But there are limitations to an acting situation, and you can investigate if you like further. I know that you will, to fully conclude as to what transpired, why those posts weren't filled, and that what we need to do to get them filled. So you definitely want people who have experience in supervising a large amount of employees, also to the best of their ability, maybe at least something to do with, heavy equipment, for example. And that's why I think that there was a discussion about investigating about Mr. Brevon, because being in the fire department and acting as the fire chief for a period of time, he would have had those skill sets necessary of heavy equipment with the fire trucks, as well as supervising a large body of employees, over 150 staff at the fire department, I think. So, like I said, I'm not certain whether he was finalized or not. I know that there was discussions about him doing a secondment as well. It would be no different than giving different people within different areas within our civil service who have that skill set and experience. Because one of the problems of finding a full-time person was that most of the people who were applying for the jobs weren't Caymanian or didn't have the necessary expertise. At least this is what I've been told by the board. As you know, I'm not involved in the hiring process, because once somebody was not selected and went out for tender, I asked the question as well. And one of the hopes that the government wants is to find a Caymanian to fill that post, that who has the best amount of experience. But there is limitations in respect to salary scale, which was another problem, because they revamped the salary scale for most authorities to bring them more in line with the public service. So what used to be paid before recent was a lot larger amount, and there was discrepancies to say people would not want to take the responsibility of such a large authority without the proper salary scale. But we were asked, and not when I say we, meaning the government, because this is from previous governments. I remember the Honorable Marco Archer being the first to try to bring in line all government-owned companies and authorities more in line with the salary scale of civil service. So once that was done, and that was done in the last administration, any new appointments moving forward would have to follow that. But then you would have situations like, say, for instance, the acting previous before Ms. McFeel, Mr. Wood, was making a substantially amount, a lot more money than the new port director would be selected. So there's a number of challenges with this transition period that the authority is facing. But I'm certain that it will be resolved, and I'm committed, and I've told the board that they have to be committed to making sure it's a Caymanian who takes that post, and also try to see within the authority those who may have had enough experience and exposure to senior positions, whether they can move up the ranks within the port. But I agree with you, much of the lack of succession planning by previous acting directors and directors is what has caused this problem. So we didn't have
Is it not
any
the board's
succession.
responsibility as well? I mean, is it not the board's responsibility to make sure that that succession planning plan exists?
Yeah, well, it is. By recognizing this board has only been in power as long as the government has been in power. Matter of fact, the new board was not appointed until I think 2 or 3 months in, so they technically have only been.
No. I'm not this board. I'm just saying board, generally speaking.
Yes.
Whoever was there first, and there are some members of this board who were there before. So I mean, they sat in a board where there was no succession plan, and they never once thought to say, since we're so interested in micromanaging the port, maybe we need to have a succession plan in place. I mean, all these guys are aging. We have an aging workforce, particularly in the civil service. Like today, I saw, after Ofreg announced yesterday that they had an interim CEO. Once again, no succession planning. This guy looks like he's about 80 years old, and all the comments in social media are like, "Why are we replacing?" Or even using an interim CEO? Yes, we're having to pull him out of central government, but he looks like he's part of the dinosaur era. Not to make fun of his age, but again, to show that
I agree with it. I agree with you 100%. But recognizing to get a lot of younger Caymanians who have the experience necessary for these positions are fine limited amount of people. And there is competition for those persons, so they're going to try to get to the best positions possible. Many of them are already in the civil service. If you remember quite correctly, that a while back they were trying to get the planning director to become the port director, and that was unsuccessful. He decided to stay at the planning director position, which he's a great young Caymanian professional with the experience necessary. But you can't force young Caymanians to move into the positions. There is a competition, and if they can get better salaries elsewhere, along with the challenges of lack of succession planning before, it created these hurdles. Now, I heard you say that a comment there, and I want to make sure I highlight that I don't support that comment about them meddling in the micromanaging. I have been given no indication that that is happening. Now, I know your sources. I know that you have sources, and you will follow your sources. But I'm going to say, as the minister responsible for the port, I haven't seen any indication of that. And if there was meddling from a board level into the micromanaging that would fall under the director's position, that would be inappropriate, and I would hold them accountable because they're accountable to me as minister. But there's no action that I've seen of that. Now, granted that there are 2 board members who were there from before. All the other board members are brand new members that I've appointed. And the purpose for that is for continuation of any boards. Boards have to continue on. You can't, if you have a brand new board, they come in fresh and blind and they don't know what has happened before. So that's a part of the rules that you have to have.
Well, mind you, the rules were recently bent for the Health Services Authority, because you had a similar situation where the allegation, and again, I'm not on the board, So I can only tell you that the allegation was that the board members that were remaining were not sharing the vision of the new board director, and they were not sharing the vision of even this government. And so by extension, after the board director, the newly appointed board director said, I'm not going to work with these people, lo and behold, they were removed. So if the rule can be bent with the HSA board, that must mean that it's not a fast and hard rule, that it's bendable.
Well, of course, I mean, there's special circumstances these things can be done, but you try to follow the rules or the suggested I want to make sure that I say this right. The protocols in respect to best practices whenever you change the boards. So now, as again, I'm not in charge of Health Services Authority. I'm in charge of the port, and I'm going to try to, in every essence, do what the protocols tell me to do, and I've done that. Now, the reason why, or if there wasn't a succession plan before, and why that didn't happen with the last board, I'm not going to comment on. We have a new government today. I can tell you that it will be my responsibility to hold this board accountable, for this board to hold whichever director or acting director that's in place, to make sure to create one. Now, that was a part of some of the responsibilities of Ms. McField to, fill those posts, as well as to create a succession plan. But bearing in mind, she was only acting for a period of time. So to expect her to change the whole thing within that period of time is going to be difficult. So when, with that in mind, you see that you have concluded, and some people may have concluded or come to the conclusion that, that the port is in a mess. The port is in a transition. I don't think it's necessarily in a mess. It's operational. Things are still being serviced. The country is still getting imports, and the guys have been dealing with a lot of chaos for many, many years. And it's my job to try to resolve that. And I think Beth did a good job by bringing up the morale of the employees there. But the morale is only one element of the operations. You have the finances that need to be addressed. We were limited on income due to the fact of the pandemic and due to the fact of lack of crews per head that the port used to get. You also have the fact that the operations were not running smoothly, which caused a lot of the HR problems with the morale of the folks there. So we had operational issues, we had financing issues, and then the morale from an HR perspective, which Beth did a great job on, and encouraging the guys that things are changing. So that commitment is still there, and the board has. When I appointed them, I told them the number one priority is to make sure that the staff at the port feel supported, that they can be in a working environment that is positive for them, but at the same time has to be running in an efficient way and in a financially prudent way, that the operations are not brought down in any way to stop the service of this very important thing, which is to import the goods that we need to live every day. I mean, 95% of our goods that we eat are imported. The equipment, the furnishings, everything that we have is imported. So we got to make sure that works well. And I don't think it's at a level where that the operations are going to be in a compromising position. Obviously, I will, with you saying that and me being over here, I'll definitely reach out to the chairman today and ask him to please send my support to the members and say, listen, whatever you're feeling, allow me to deal with my personal family matter. And I'll come home and I'll sit and talk to them, because I know most of the port staff there one-on-one, like I always did. Most of them are Georgetowners as well. And I love them very much, and they know I'm committed to them. They've been really excited about the change. Them too, just like most people, want things done right away, but problems take a while to become a problem, and sometimes it takes just as long to find a solution. I wish that I could say I had 5 good, strong key Caymanians that I can plug into the director, deputy directors, and some of the managerial positions that are lost, but they're just not available right now. And we're trying to find the best ways to plug the right people in the right places. At least that's what the board has advised me the strategy is. And I think we're going to get there. And the guys know that from a financial perspective, once the country is in a better position, wherever there's gaps from a financial perspective, we will accommodate and make sure that they're awarded appropriately. So I think we're going to be fine. I know that sometimes bad news travels fast, or perceived bad news, but I don't think it's as bad as many people may want to make it perceived. I wish that, for particularly for Miss Macfield, that she would stay on and potentially even be a part of the port long term, but she has to apply, and that's the part that a lot of people are not talking about. That I can't force her to apply. So anyway, the port is gonna be fine, and this minister and this administration is going to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure the port and the staff are operating at the maximum capacity.
All right, my dear. Well, let's leave it there for now, I suppose. Like I said, we'll be having a more in-depth conversation hopefully later in the week on the whole port situation, because there's much more there that I understand that's going on. And for the record, I know you said that you could probably guess who my sources are, but one of the interesting things is sometimes the source of information for me is incredible
Multiple places
where it comes from. Yes, and I always like to verify multiple places. But let me say this: I think most people know that I am a Macfield on my mother's side. So Beth and I are actually cousins. I don't know. I think it might be third cousins. Like, I'm not even 100% sure. And so some people might be making the assumption that, oh, maybe Beth is a source of information. Funny enough, this article came out and Beth had no clue that the article was coming out. When she saw it, she said, oh, wow, I saw your article, because that was news to her, probably like it was news to 97% of the people in this country. And I said to her, I said, I actually didn't even want to say anything to you about it, because there's something factually that I couldn't remember what ministry she was being pulled from. And I was like, do I message
border control?
Yes. But I said, you know what? Let me ask somebody else that question. Because if I go to Beth and I ask the question, she's going to be like, why? What's going on? And I do not even want her to remotely be looked at as, oh, this is Sandy's source of information. This is where stuff is coming from. Absolutely not. So I purposely sometimes omit people from even asking the most basic of questions, or even letting them know that something is coming that kind of is related to them and that would be mentioning your name or involving you and that sort of thing. So I just want to put that out there, because
I appreciate that. I don't want you to assume that I'm thinking it's one particular person, but I want you to know this, that though I'm not shy or afraid for anything to come out in respect to things I'm responsible for, because I do believe in the transparency element of the PAC administration, and I believe I'm the people's representative, and I want to be held accountable for whenever things that they think is going on, so I can clarify it. But what is disappointing most so, though, is that what is happening now is a perception of something bad happening. What is happening is we're having challenges, yes. Challenges that we came and found, challenges that we have no control over by way of the fact that Mr. Wood is resigned and Mr. Jacob has resigned. Matter of fact, some people have actually welcomed some of those resignations. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a problem. We have to now solve those situations where lack of succession planning and resignations. That doesn't mean that there is chaos at the port. It means that we have to find solutions. It means that we have to put in a proper succession planning. But that doesn't mean that the world is turning upside down. So what is now unfortunately happening is this negative perception that things are going bad. What we're in is in a transition, and that transition is going to take its time, and we're going to do it properly, and we're going to have a solution. In a year from now, we're not going to be having this conversation, because we're going to do it right. And the people can depend on that, because I have to be held accountable to the employees, I have to be accountable to the country, I have to be accountable to my colleagues within the PAC administration to make sure it's done right. And you can't just put doing it overnight. I wish it could be solved that quickly, but usually something will go wrong if you do it that fast. So you have to do it properly, and we're going to get there. So I just want to send that story out there, or that narrative that things are going to be fine. Yes, there are challenges, and we will find people Matter of fact, I would love to take this opportunity to say, listen, if they're young, strong Caymanians who have the experience with a large population or a large employee base that may have some sort of, even if it's not the full complement of experience within operations of a port, maybe in operations of something else, maybe somebody who used to be in CUC or at Flow or a major company that can come and apply, because we want strong, younger, middle-aged Caymanians who to give them the opportunity for these positions while we are also planning for succession. So identify port staff that are they're up and coming to say, listen, can we add you some training for another couple of years so you can be the next deputy director or potentially the next director? You know, there's great examples of that. And one person that I think did a really good job of it is Mr. Clifford, Charles Clifford. He did a good job with the port, and I mean with the customs department. And I think we can do the same. We do have them. We just got to take our time and find the best balances from an employment perspective and their salaries and their experiences. But we're gonna get it right. I'm certain of that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Minister. I appreciate it. And again, we do have questions coming in, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. I've actually got a facility tour that I have to go and do this afternoon. I'm going to share that with you guys once we start the program tomorrow. Mr. Amelia is asking whatever happened to the beautification around the port before the ships returned. And I guess she's saying that she hasn't seen much going on this week. Do we know where that is? And again, that's a port responsibility, by the way. I wasn't aware who was responsible for that until when I was questioning it. And I understand.
Well, that would be Miss Macfield. That would be Miss Macfield. So just to answer the question though, because I won't want to leave it open-ended like that. There's a lot of things that the facilities management has been doing at the port. I agree that we could have done some more painting and freshening up, but the operations itself at the port is running very, very well. The part that people don't recognize is that from an authority perspective and control perspective, there's only the port itself that I'm in charge of. I'm not in charge of the roads or the private properties across the street. So one thing that I was really disappointed in is that the road closure was done and there was not consultation with my ministry.
You mentioned that as well. Like this is just it's a lack of planning. The right hand don't know what the left hand doing. The right eye don't know what the left eye doing. I mean, it's just like they have had a lot of time.
Sandra, I agree. We've all had a lot of time, but opening the country has not been the easiest thing, and that's not an excuse.
I'm talking about the revitalization project specifically. Like to me, the timing of that makes no sense.
Well, I'll say this: I've expressed my concerns about that myself, and the minister responsible, the Honorable J.E. Banks, have sat and said we agree that things need to be run a bit more smoothly in respect to communications, particularly with me as Minister of Tourism and the downtown area being a very high tourism location, that wouldn't happen again. I can promise you that. So we've communicated with them. We now know what's their plan, and I expect to, I think the NRA will be doing some road meetings in town, and we can sit down and explain, because one thing that the last administration never did very good with is actually explaining what the revitalization of Georgetown means. What is it? What does it look like? What road plans do they have? When you say Georgetown revitalization, what does that mean? And they will have to explain that and sell it to the public, because I mean, I must admit that the story is that was done the last time. I don't really recall it, but I know that I'm the representative for Georgetown Central. Very much of the work has to be done. And I've said to them that I expect to have a public meeting explaining to the people what to expect. And it has to be clear. So there is 3 different elements here for me to look at it at. 1, the Minister for Port. 2, the Minister for Tourism, and the representative for the area. So I will be addressing those things, but to finalize my answer in respect to the question, before my unfortunate family situation happened, I had plans to meet with the chamber, Mr. Shamari Scott, new president, but unfortunately I'm here in the UK to talk with the property owners in the area about what we can do to assist to help them beautify their locations. But bearing in mind, those are private entities, so we have to tread carefully with that, because we can't just give away the people's money. But if there's a way for us to give them a grant to help freshen up the paint or what have you, whatever it is, those negotiations are going to start happening now. And then I can go back to my cabinet and say, listen, or to the cabinet that I'm a part of, it's the premier's cabinet, but go back to them and say, guys, do you give me enough support to take X amount of money and share it up amongst the land property owners in the area to help them freshen up? Some of them don't necessarily have to be painted. It could just be a chemical based clean your power wash, because what I recognize that we did some power washing down at the port, but power washing didn't get the that. And this is the first time in my life I've actually seen how pollution works. You power wash, and that black gum off of the paint never comes off. You know, it's like you either have to paint it over or get a chemical base to clean it to freshen back up that look and those colors that we have downtown. So things are happening. They may not happen exactly the speed that we want them to. And yes, we were locked down for a while, and we think that we could have done a lot of those things. But there is financial limitation to a lot of these things. The money doesn't grow on trees. We've had a budget and allocation for these things. You've seen recently we've had to go back to finance committee for more money for stipend program, because nobody knows how long these things are going to take. And we're trying to open the country. Some people don't want us to open because of the risk, but we need the money to do these things that are expected of us, you know? So it's about the balancing act, and there's no exact perfect way to do it. I want the people to know that we recognize that, and we're going to do our best with the challenges that we have. And I'm certain that within a couple of months from now, this may not even be a concern, because we're on it and we're fixing these things. All right.
Thank you so much, Minister. Really appreciate your engagement as always. And again, our condolences, all of our thoughts and prayers are with you as you traverse this difficult time in your life.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Kim and Road, thank you so much for the audience. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
All right, folks. Okay, folks, that was Minister of Transport and Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, joining us from the UK. And again, of course, we didn't really expect to go all the way down in the conversation as we did, because he is overseas tending to personal family matters after the unexpected and recent loss of his sister. Jared, just some final thoughts from you before we wrap up. I noticed that Lavana says that she was about to get in her car, so she was looking forward to listening to it on radio. We have had a query from someone at the station already that says, do you want to go until 10 o'clock? I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know yet, because a lot of days I really do have to cut it at 9:30 and I have to get out of here. If I've got to run to court or whatever, court starts at 10 normally. So I kind of feel like the 2 hours is normally perfect, but we've been having a lot to say lately.
Yeah, Sandy, my final thoughts are, middle. Yeah, you can have middle-aged people, but that's not young, to be honest. What I was expecting to hear, and I think what young Kimanians were saying, put 25 to 35 young Kimanians on the board. There's nothing wrong with having 2 or 3 young 20 to 30-year-old Caymanians on the boards. There's nothing wrong with having a 25-year-old Caymanian as deputy director or director of a public authority. The problem is you keep saying middle-aged Cayman. Then I know young person, you've been on the planet for 50 years. But either way, what I don't understand with the minister is that he's in charge of the port, but you're in charge of tourism. Tourism is the people them that coming through the port. So the response, I'm not taking that excuse where, it is directed in charge of the port, is a transition. Listen, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Is either you tell your board to fix it and say, get it done. I don't want no excuses, and we move on. Because that he in the UK, he has a personal matter. That's separate. But come on, Cayman operates at a certain level. We have to maintain that and improve that level. We're just not meeting that level right now. And yes, it's hard to open up a country. Right now, I don't care about that. Why wasn't the port looking spick and span as how?
And let me also say equally, there's a private business in town that has a mural up. And I was looking at that as well on Sunday when I went by there to grab some food. And I also looked at that mural, and my husband's like, wow, that looks so dingy. And couldn't they have freshened up the paint? And so I think that, to the minister's point, that private sector, of course, we can't hold private sector accountable the way that we can hold government accountable. But private sector also appears to have missed an opportunity, as far as I'm concerned. Like all the buildings there. I mean, what were they doing for the past 2 years?
Well, to be honest, I don't even think the private sector was really expecting the cruise ship to come, because the first time the cruise
it was inevitable the cruise ships were returning. So
yeah, but I don't think they were ready, because remember, there was a first cruise ship that was supposed to come and that got canceled. And so when they said, "Oh," I think there was not a strong
but
level.
you don't have to wait until we know cruise ships are coming next week Thursday. So get ready. You knew that they were coming back for the past 2 years that we've been in lockdown. So that entire time, if you painted one little section of a wall every week, you would have been done a long time ago.
100%.
All I'm hearing are excuses, Jared.
True.
Anyway, we got to wrap it up.
Yeah, but that's all I say, really. But thanks.
Yeah,
man. See ya.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back here tomorrow morning at 7:30. So in case you've not noticed the routines, we start a little bit before 7:30 so we can do our segment on 106 where we talk about, we do their news headlines for them. Then, you and I chat for a few minutes until we're ready to go live in radio at 7:30. And then the substantive conversation happens between 7:30 and 9:30, and any overflow. So when we go into overtime, you and I will sit here on Facebook and YouTube and continue to have the conversation. So, folks, have a beautiful day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as usual. So yeah, we got a lot of things to talk about. The port situation is definitely coming. We're going to be talking about it. And so, it is what it is. Tomorrow evening, please don't forget that we have Impact Wednesday in the morning, and we also have the premiere access in the evening. So that's going to be on radio as well. So tomorrow evening, if you're out and about in the evening hours, please note that the 7:00 show will be on with the premiere on Bobo 89.1. Have a fabulous day, folks.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Find us on Facebook and YouTube for the latest show episodes, including special community interviews and much more. Follow Cayman Marl Road on Facebook and YouTube for all your community happenings.